If you guys need coins for the new Fut birthday promo, make sure you check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a nice 5% discount. So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some updated 4-3-2-1 custom tactics and player instructions. The formation that I believe to be the absolute best in FIFA 23 is my personal favourite in the game, and yeah, I hope you guys do enjoy this video. Let's get right into it. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics. For the defensive style, I like to have this on balanced. This is just because it is the most controlled in the game. It is the most balanced, as the name suggests. You know, it makes your defense press when you need to press, and it allows you to drop off and be that more conservative when you need to be. So it does just give you the very much needed control that isn't present with other tactics like the pressure ones, for example. Now, moving on to the defensive width guys, I'm currently using this on about 40. This is very similar for the different formations I use. And the reason for this is it sets your defense up in a primary narrow state. So basically you're primarily covering those central areas, which is super important because that's where the goal is, isn't it? You know, if you're not covering those central areas, people are just going to have free shots at your goal and just run through you. So it's important that you do have a compact defense, but at the same time, by having the width on about 40, we're also able to cover those wide areas to stop the attacks down the wing too. Now, moving on to the depth guys, I'm currently using this on 60. This is so we've got like a nice balanced defensive line where it's not too deep, so we're not always getting pinned back, and it's not super high up either, so we're not always getting through ball. It's kind of nice and balanced where sometimes you can win the ball higher up the pitch with a higher defensive line, and then other times it's like a little bit deeper and it allows us to drop back, which I find to be super beneficial. Now, moving on to build-up play guys, I do have this on balance because I believe it to be the most consistent in the game. Something like fast build-up is very good when the gameplay is quick, but as you guys know, FIFA 23 gameplay is very inconsistent. Sometimes you can have really heavy gameplay, meaning fast build-up will actually be too quick for what you're able to put together. So I do suggest balanced, as it is the most suited for all of the types of gameplay you will experience. Now, moving on to chance creation, my main suggestion would be to use direct passing. This is because it makes your attacking players bunch up against the defenders, meaning you're able to do those very overpowered isolation plays, and you're also able to get the movements from the players to get that extra pass, which isn't present in other chance creation settings. You also just get really good movement overall, which really suits the meta of this game. Now, not everybody likes direct passing, and that's fine, so my second suggestion would be forward runs. Now, this is in a way a little bit more direct than direct passing, funnily enough, even though it's not in the name, but basically your team pushes very far into your opponent's half. But what I don't like about forward runs is you can get counter-attacked very easily when you lose the ball, so it's kind of like a preference thing. I prefer direct passing, but feel free to use forward runs if you like. Now, moving on to the attacking width guys, I'm currently just using this on 46. There's not really much of a difference between, like, let's say 44, 45, 46, but I'm just using it on 46. So our team isn't like super wide because otherwise it would play out like a 4-3-3, which we don't want, and I don't want it to be, you know, like super narrow either, otherwise our players are like sat on top of each other and it's very difficult to get things going. So I'm kind of just using this on 46 because it's just something I settled on recently. And yeah, moving on to players in box guys, I have this on 6 because I want to commit like quite a few players into the box so we can create chances, of course, but I don't want to overcommit the entire team to the point where if we lose the ball we're in trouble and we get counter attack. So I just found a good balance having this on 6, and I have basically used this for like the past few months now. As for corners and free kicks, I have these both on 1 because there is a corner kick routine that I use that requires both of these to be on 1. There is a link to that in the top right hand corner of the screen. Now, moving on to the players you want to use, guys. In the striker position, because this is a one striker formation, you kind of have to make sure that your striker is nice and well rounded because you have to compensate for the fact that there is one striker instead of 2. So I do suggest going for a nice well rounded striker that has multiple abilities, such as being able to shoot on either foot, having a decent dribbling ability, even passing ability, as well as being able to finish the ball. So it's just nice to have a well rounded player to compensate for the fact that you don't have a second striker. Now, moving on on to both the right forward and the left forward, or the two centre forwards, whatever you want to call them, I suggest using good winger style players, because these are like your main playmakers in the formation, and these are the players that will cover those wider areas. So it's important that they do have the pace, because they're also going to be making a lot of those runs. You just want to use players with like good dribbling, good pace, good skills if you can get it, good passing, good shooting, basically just those really good winger style players. So I'm just using Di Maria and Jairzinho. Now moving on to the left centre mid, I like to use a more box to box style player in this position. This is somebody that is going to attack and defend for us, so I like to go for somebody with very well-rounded stats, and the ideal work rate for this player would be a high work rate, so you get the maximum contribution in attack and defence. But again, don't worry too much about the work rates, because for example this Pogba's a high medium and he works just fine. Now moving on to the middle centre mid, we use more of a defensive midfielder. This is somebody that's going to stay back and add defensive security for us, so I'm using the flashback Jorginho. The ideal work rate for this player would be a medium high, so you get maximum contribution in defence and they're not too bothered about attack, and you just want somebody with really good defensive stats. It doesn't really matter what their attacking stats are, because they're not really going to be going forward. Now in the right centre mid position, I like to use an actual attacker. Now this will make sense in the player instructions, but I suggest using an actual attacker here, somebody like a Alouara and a Jairzinho and Mbappe, you know, any of those types of players, just a really quick good attacker in this position, and you don't have to worry about them being an actual centre mid. As for the left back and the right back, I like to go for a bit of a balance between the two, where my left back's more attacking minded and a bit better on the ball, so he is actually going to contribute for us, and then the right back's a bit more defensive and kind of lacks the attacking ability. I kind of just like to have that balance between the two full-backs. As for the centre-backs and the goalkeeper, these just need to be as good as you can get them. Now moving on to the player instructions, guys. On the striker, I like to have him on stay central and mixed attack. Now we have him on stay central because we don't want him drifting off into those wider areas, because he is a striker. We do need him to be in the middle, especially because there is only one striker. We always need to make sure he is in the right position, otherwise we're not going to have somebody there to finish off the chances. So stay central means he's always going to be in the correct position. And we also have him on mixed attack, because if you put him on getting behind, it makes him very one-dimensional and makes your attack very predictable, especially against those good opponents that can read those through balls. So by putting them on mixed attack, it just makes your striker get a bit more involved and you get a bit more out of your striker, I think. Now moving on to the right forward, I have him on stay central and get in behind. Now even though he's one of the wider players, I'm saying wider because it is still a narrow formation, we don't want him drifting off to the wings, otherwise it feels too much like a 4-3-3. So we have him on stay central, so he is staying nice and narrow, and if we do want him to run wider, we can do that manually with him. We also have this player on getting behind because we want to utilize this player's pace to really get in and get him into the best spaces to create those chances. It is important to get the most movement out of this right forward, I do think. Now moving on to the left forward, I just have him on comeback on defense. This is because it's going to make the formation defend in a 4-4-2 shape, which is a much better defensive shape than a 4-3-2-1. So by putting this player on comeback on defense, he's going to come back to defend as a left mid in the 4-4-2. So the back four is going to be the same, and in my case Di Maria would be the left mid, Pogba would be the left centre mid, Jorginho would be the right centre mid, and Chiesa would be the right mid. So that's just how that sets up. Now moving on to the left centre mid, the more box-to-box style player, we have him on default settings and cover centre. We have him on default settings because we don't really want to restrict this player. We want him to have the freedom to do whatever he wants because he has that box-to-box player. The only important thing is that we have him on cover centre, so he is in the middle. He is a centre mid in the 4-4-2. Otherwise, if we have him on cover wing, it messes it up a little bit. Now moving on to the middle centre mid, the more defensive-minded player, we have him on stay back while attacking, stay on the edge of the box across, and cover centre. Stay back is just so he doesn't bother going forward because he's not really going to contribute much even if he did go forward, and we have him on stay back just so we have that defensive security. Otherwise it can just be a little bit too open. We have him on stay on the edge of the box across because let's say he does get taken forward, like the AI randomly runs him forward or whatever, he won't actually commit into the penalty box, so he won't actually go too far forward either, even if he does go forward. And we have him on cover centre for the same reason as the left centre mid, where he will defend as one of the middle centre mids in a 4-4-2. Now moving on to the right centre mid where we use an actual attacker, we have get forward, get into the box cross and cover wing. We have him on get forward because he is an attacker, so we do want him to join the attack. We have him on get into the box for cross because if we have him on balance crossing runs, they can be very static and they won't really get involved when we are in the penalty area. So having him on get into the box cross means he will get more involved. And we also have him on cover wing, so he does defend it as a right mid in the 4-4-2 shape. Now moving on to the left back, my more attacking fullback, have him on balance, attack and overlap. This is to add extra width to the formation because it is quite a narrow formation. So by committing one of the fullbacks forward with the overlap run type, it means we're going to add a wider option, so we can play narrow and also have that wider option too, which makes it very unpredictable to play against. On the right back, my more defensive fullback, I have him on stay back while attacking and overlap. We have him on stay back, so we always at least have 3 defenders back, and then we have him on overlap because let's say I do trigger a run forward with him with L1, he will make the overlapping runs to add extra width as opposed to running narrow. As for the centre backs and the goalkeeper, I just leave them alone. I do not touch them. But yeah guys, they're my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-3-2-1. If you guys have enjoyed or found this useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.